Well, in this chapter, we get to see a really cool double move, I guess you would say, from Zoro and Luffy, and the ending with the Sniper King.
One Piece Chapter 367, Sniper King.
Hey, what's 2 times 108? 216. Oh, that's a mouthful. Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the awesome and the epic and, of course, the wave and Aqua Laguna filled tale of One Piece. Now, our last chapter saw us with everybody, of course, heading on the Rocket Man train, trying to catch up feverishly, I might add, to the Puffing Tom, which is, of course, ahead and on its way to Eni's lobby. But, of course, they're fighting, number one, this thing not being able to slow down, and number two, really just the Aqua Laguna and this giant wave that's coming at them. So, the chapter ended off with some of the Franky family going and looking to fire cannons, I guess, straight into the water, hopefully for them to be able to get through, I'm assuming, and that's how things left off, and that's, excuse me, right where things pick up over here. And we wind up seeing, it's fairly fruitless. The first couple of pages are the Franky family trying to use bigger and bigger guns and weapons and cannons to fire at this wave. And I guess the track is fine, but they'll wind up just, you know, if they wind up hitting this thing head on, this wave, they're just going to be done, right? So they have to find a way to be able to create, to be able to not have so much friction for them hitting it and then getting, of course, blasted apart, to be able to actually blast through it, you know, obviously right as it's about to hit, so they can kind of almost create like a water tunnel and actually make it through this this wave. So at least that's what I get from it anyway. But so Luffy and Zoro wind up coming out, you know, on top of the train, and you got, and Zoro, man, he's getting pumped up, you know, because he does his 108-pound, and then that's when Luffy's like, what's 2 times 108? And Zoro's like, 216. Why? And he's just like, oh, geez, that's a mouthful. He's like, whatever. So then he's like, 300. And he's like, okay, fine then. So they both go and just kind of gear up, right? And they're just 300-pound, and instead of him doing his Phoenix and Luffy doing his, you know, bazooka or whatever, they just kind of go 300-pound together, side by side cannon, you know. Zoro goes and flashes his swords out there, and we presume obviously fires, you know, his almost projectile sword slashes that he has, and then Luffy, you know, just extends his arms out there to kind of bash it with the force of a cannon, or maybe to create some extra force. But it's just cool seeing them side by side on this train, as you know, crazy sounding as the move actually is, and probably unrealistic too. Doesn't really bother me though, just because it looks awesome, and they wind up just actually, you know, creating this vortex, like a hole in this huge wave for them to actually get through. So for me, that was actually just absolutely wonderful, you know. So and even everybody inside the train, they're just like, there's no way these guys cannot be human, you know. And then they go and they make note of, like, you know, fighting against these guys is terrible, but when these guys are on your side, man, these pirates are something else, you know. So these guys are the real deal. These guys are next level. These are the guys you want to have at your back when you're fighting, you know. You want to have your back. So very, very cool stuff. We do wind up going and checking in, and of course the entire time since the end of last chapter, when Nami picked up the then Mushi, the snail phone, and started talking to Sanji and whatnot, Sanji and Franky and Usopp are on the roof of the train, and Sanji's talking through this. You know, obviously he's out in the Aqua Laguna, the storm as well, and he's talking to Nami, and Nami's trying to fill him in on everything that's going on over there, and what's happening. And you got to remember that several people have been apart from each other for a while, so like even as Sanji goes and kind of fills in Usopp and Franky, you know, so to speak, on what's going on, Usopp has no, like, first of all, he's very touched by the fact that Robin, you know, wanted him to be one of the 6 people that actually could live, that she was going to sacrifice herself for. And there's the argument to be had with her about, well, she cares about these people, the small band of pirates, and cares nothing for the destruction of the world. But I can understand where she's coming from, and you can argue both sides of it, but you have to remember that since she's been a child, right? And when you're a child, you're young and impressionable, and that's why a lot of the things that parents wind up doing, whether they yell at a child or whatever it is, whether they coddle them, if they do it too much and they're too extreme with it, the child can develop negative or positive personality traits because of that. Because when you're young, you're very impressionable. You know, you see that older person that you admire, you look up to, and for better or worse, you inherit some of those traits that they have, you know. And it could be yelling, getting angry about things, anxiety. It could be being too nice and just letting people walk over you. There's a myriad of different things. But the bottom line is, with Robin, is that in her mind, finding this is more important than the destruction of the world, because because she doesn't care to be in the world to begin with. She didn't care to live in the world, especially after Alabasta. But what she found in these Straw Hat Pirates, and obviously in this crew, was the camaraderie and the companionship that she's probably always so desired ever since she was a child. So anyway, but to getting off the topic a little bit, I apologize. So, you know, we got Usopp, of course, is like, you know, he's touched by what happened, but he's like, you know what, I still can't join you guys and everything else, you know, it's a shame that she doesn't know about the going merry, she doesn't know about the fight between Luffy and I, the falling out we had, but ultimately this has nothing to do with me, you know, because as Sanji's going back and forth in there, Luffy's like, yeah, man, don't worry about it, you got my permission to go ahead and just tear shit up, you know, and you got Zoro going, no, tell him to wait for us, wait for backup, we're trying to catch up, you know, and they're like, and it was funny to see them go back and forth and fight, you know, and then you got Sanji like, hey, what is Mosshead? What, are you actually worried about me over there? And he's like, no, I wouldn't. And these two are great because they have this sort of almost like a sibling rivalry, you know, between the two. That's what I take from it. They're like, they have this grudging respect and admiration for one another, but neither one will ever admit that they truly actually give a shit about the other one, you know. But it is neat to see the little nods and the things they have, and the constant bickering they have back and forth, and they're trying to one-up each other and things. It does remind me very much of having 5 younger siblings, 2 of them being brothers. I kind of know how some of that stuff has gone down, you know, just from my personal life. So very very funny to see. But anyway, you know, so they're like, hey, listen, if you were there, you know, and they point out, they make a good point, you know, if Luffy was there and somebody told him not to do anything, he wouldn't listen, you know. So Sanji was going to go full bore ahead anyway. He just wanted, you know, it's nice that he actually had the permission of his captain to kind of go and tear shit up. So then we go and we get another thing, and it wasn't a super action heavy chapter in the sense of not a lot of people actually getting fighting against other people. Of course, the move that Luffy and Zoro did on the wave was pretty cool, but for the most part, this is kind of a setup chapter in the end of the volume chapter here. So anyway, Usopp winds up going and taking off. You know, he's just like, I have the world government now is finally after us and everything else. I don't need to be a part of this. There's no reason for me to be. You know, I'm weak. I did everything that I did. I said what I said. And you guys are just going to wind up meeting back up with Luffy anyway. And, you know, he knows that obviously they had the falling out and they're done, you know. So at least that's what he says at this point. Franky, though, you know, says, hey, listen, I'll go and team up with you. I'll help you. He likes the heartfelt story, obviously, of everything that's happened with the crew, with Usopp, with Robin, and what she did. So he seems to be kind of a big softy at heart. And, you know, and ultimately, at the end of the day, you know, he seems like he's a genuinely good person. At least that's what I take from it. That's what I get from it. So the chapter, though, winds up ending off as it kind of goes back and forth between the two over there, and they're trying to gain speed and the Rocket Man to go and catch up. You know, and it's funny because Kokoro's like, yeah, you know, I told you guys that, you know, we may die anyway over here, but now, I mean, we're going so fast now at this point that we can't even stop if we wanted to. So I don't know what they're going to do. Crash into the other train, or get close to it and try to jump from it or something. I have no idea. But the chapter winds up ending, actually, with all of a sudden, in cars 3 and 4 now in the Puffing Tom, they've been kind of alerted to what's going on. And one of the guys, and I think car 3 it is, goes and pokes his head out. He sees an open window and pokes his head out. He's like, oh, wait, they're there. And he sees, you know, obviously Sanji and Franky on top of the train, and you know, and he's just like, oh, okay, he's going to alert everybody, and then you go and all of a sudden you hear a metallic star, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, Usopp came back, right? Usopp comes back, and I guess he's playing some kind of superhero or something, because then all of a sudden they're like, oh, who's that? And he's just like, I heard the whole story from him, and then you go and you see this kind of a shadowy type figure in there. Let me get that in there. You kind of see like the shadow of a figure, you know, and then you get, you know, let's see here. You want to save a young lady, do you? I need no particular reason to lend you a hand in your endeavor. I shall fight alongside you. My name is Sniper King. And then we get this kind of look of him over here. And it's clearly Usopp with a mask on. I don't know who he's fooling, but I don't know. Maybe that's just what he's got to do for his own personal, you know, to beat his own personal demons. Like, hey, listen, you know, I'm too embarrassed to go and help out after what happened, but I'll go and don this costume and kind of take on this, well, you know, what do they say for, like, superheroes, you know, that wind up doing as crime fighters and what have you. They sort of take on this alias, this other personality. It becomes them. It allows them to expose their other side, you know. So maybe that's his deal. I don't know. A little bit silly, but nonetheless, still pretty cool. So, ending off the volume over here, and actually a pretty cool ending, because the last few chapters, for me, have been real positive and kind of built this camaraderie, and they've kind of built this small, formidable fighting force of, you know, 50 of the Franky family, as well as, of course, the Straw Hats that are there. The Straw Hat, you know, obviously Sanji being on the train. Franky going to team up with Sanji. They're going to try to rescue Robin. And then they've got also, you know, the Galley-Lock Company foreman. You know, they've got Tilestone and Lulu and Paulie. So very cool stuff. But really my chapter question for you, though, brothers and sisters, is, and I haven't asked this one in a while, feel free to comment if you'd like to, but I would like to know how old you are. You know, just how old you are, and I guess, you know, if you feel like commenting and letting me know. So leave your answer to that question in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We look forward to catching all of you in the next Fun Nation.
Remember to follow me on my other channel as well as Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.